From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Good evening, Nashville. Welcome to SportsLine. Yours truly, John Burton, with you until the top of the next hour. It's our usual Wednesday extravaganza. Of course, we were preempted last week by the Ron Howes retirement party, and let me be among the last to wish Ron Howes a very, very happy retirement. 36 years at the weather desk here at News Channel 5 and News Channel 5 Plus. It's certainly been a pleasure working with and getting to know Ron Howes, and I know that he's going to enjoy his retirement with his wonderful family, and he will certainly be missed around these parts. All right, a lot to get to tonight as we talk some Titans OTAs. Your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans are always welcome, 737-7767. Also, we want to get your NBA Finals prediction. Cavs or Warriors? Who you got? I'm going out on a limb here. I'm against all odds. I say LeBron and the Cavs get it done in 6. I want to see if you agree or not. 737-7767. Don't feel like calling into the show? You can always tweet me at NC5_John Burton. That's at NC5_John Burton. All right, today, obviously, we've got week 2 of Titans organized team activities going on at St. Thomas Sports Park. Today, Wednesday, the only day the media was allowed to come and check things out. I was there along with my guest at this time, joining us on the phone from the Tennessean. He covers the Titans. He covers the Predators. He covers everything. He's our buddy John Glennon. Johnny, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for being on with us tonight. All right. Mike Mularkey said when he took over as head coach that he was going to change some things with how the Titans practice, as opposed to maybe as opposed to Ken Wisenhunt. What have you noticed about the way the team conducts itself on the practice field so far in OTAs?
You know, one thing that's kind of struck me just in the OTAs is I think an increased emphasis or priority that Mike Mularkey has put on penalties and kind of discipline and so forth. You know, I've seen in years past a lot of coaches will bring in officials for training camp, you know, for a few days of training camp. But Mike Mularkey is the first guy that I've seen bring in officials for every day of the OTAs as well. You know, we've been seeing flags fly pretty regularly through the OTAs, which is to be expected in some degree. But you know, Mike Mularkey said today that he keeps a chart of every penalty that's called during OTAs. You know, who's getting called for what, who's leading the chart, which is not a good place to be. You know, and he talked about even little skirmishes today that went on during the OTAs and how those might really hurt a team. You know, if you get a 15-yard penalty for, you know, any kind of too aggressive behavior out there, that's a killer. So I think that, to me, that's one of the main things I've seen just so far in the OTAs under Mike Mularkey is really a real focus on discipline and you know, staying under control out there. He's Mike Mularkey is a guy who's very, very attentive to detail.
And, of course, Taylor Lewan, the Titans' left tackle, had a lot of problems with penalties last year, a lot of hands to the face penalties. He spoke to the media last week. This is our first chance to react to it. It seems like he's taking a more business-like approach this year, not so much the media darling that we've grown accustomed to the last couple of years. It seems like he's of single focus. He wants to go out there and perform and prove that he is the franchise left tackle of the Tennessee Titans. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, you know, I think Mike Mularkey said it even before we talked to Taylor Lewan, that he kind of singled Taylor Lewan out as saying, you know, this guy has done everything we've asked for and more, you know, whether it's been in the weight room or on the field. You know, he's really seemed like a different person in some respects so far. And, you know, there's probably at least a couple reasons for that is, you know, one, that there's at least in theory some competition for that left tackle position, you know, and Jack Conklin, a guy who, you know, was first-round draft pick who played left tackle, obviously, in college. So, you know, in theory, you know, Jack Conklin could be a guy that you know, they're looking to at left tackle if Taylor Lewan is at the very top of his game. You know, and I think just pride Taylor Lewan also, you know, one, you know, here's a guy who had the C taken away from him, you know, in the middle of last year when Mike Mularkey took over, and a guy who, you know, in some respects I think struggled, especially during the first half of the season. You know, as you said, allowed a number of sacks, you know, took way too many penalties, and I think there's a pride factor, and I think Taylor Lewan has kind of set his mind this year to you know, I'm not going to get by on talent and athleticism alone. I've got to put my mind to it, and he seems like a more focused guy to me.
John Glennon of the Tennessean is our guest as we talk about Titans OTAs. John, this is also our first chance to chat here on the show since last week's terrible injury to Byron Bell. You hate to see that happen to any player, especially a guy like Byron Bell, a guy I know we in the media like very much. He seems like he was slated to be the starting left guard. Who do you think is the front runner now that Bell, as we know, is going to be out for the season with that dislocated ankle?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Right around the draft, Mike Mularkey even hinted that Chance Warmack might get some reps at left guard because, of course, that's where he played in college. But today he kind of moved back on that. He said, probably not going to happen at this point. That's kind of on hold. So, right now we've got Quentin Spain, we've got Sebastian Tritola, and Jeremiah Patasi are kind of the three who are getting the rotations there at that spot. And I think, Quentin Spain seems to be the front runner right now. He's a guy with experience. He did start a few games last year at that position, and I think he's looked pretty good. But it's going to be interesting to me to see how Patasi comes along there. He's got a little bit of experience at guard now under his belt after finishing out last year at that position. And this is a guy who, even though he was clearly out of position when he was playing tackle at the beginning of last year, I think there is still some talent there. So I want to see, how he does at the guard spot. I still think there's a pretty good battle to win that position, probably between those two guys.
Well, of course, we have a long way to go before that needs to be decided. 4 preseason games and numerous training camp practices. All right, John, you mentioned Chance Warmack. Had a nice conversation with him today. Obviously, we brought up the gorilla in the room, the fact that the Titans did not pick up the 5th-year option on his contract. So he's basically in conceivably a lame duck year. Of course, we know John Robinson, the GM, left the door open for Warmack to be here beyond next year. I thought Warmack was great, talking about, look, I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about being a good part of this team and coming in and playing as well as I can. What do you gauge the future to be for Chance Warmack beyond this year? Will it depend on how well he plays this year? Will it depend on injuries? What do you think are some of the deciding factors as to whether or not Chance Warmack gets another contract beyond this year with the Titans?
But I think it's got to depend a lot on consistency. I think Chance Warmack has had some very good games and some not so good games, and that's really not quite enough for a guy who is a first-round pick and who for whom much of it is expected. So I think if he can have a more consistent, say first half to this year, maybe that's when we'll start to see the contract negotiations kind of pick up, and maybe something gets done during the year, or maybe it's after the year. But I still think they like Chance Warmack, and you don't necessarily want to give up on a first round pick, after just a couple of seasons or so. But I think the consistency has to be there, and then if they do like that, you can certainly find a longer term deal at less money than he would have got if the Titans had to pick up that franchise year. If the Titans had to pick up that franchise year, we're talking about $11 million or so, and that's it's pretty outrageous money for a guard unless you're an all-pro at this point. But just because they don't want to pay that money doesn't mean they don't want to keep Chance Warmack. So I still think there's a possibility they'll get some sort of an extension.
My good buddy Johnny Glennon of the Tennessean talking Titans OTAs with us here on SportsLine. John, another guy I spoke to today was Dexter McCluster. I know you've spoken with him as well, I believe. With all this talk about, them bringing in DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, these big physical running backs, kind of left you wondering, well, what's Dexter McCluster's role going to be in the Titans offense? Had a good conversation with him today. He seems to be very confident that there is a place for him on the offense. They will find ways to utilize his speed and versatility. Mike Mularkey kind of echoed that today after practice as well. What's your read on Dexter McCluster heading into this year, especially now that Mike Mularkey is going to be kind of controlling what he does and where he goes, as opposed to Ken Wisenhunt, who never really seemed to find a consistent spot for him in the offense?
No, he really didn't. I think Mike Mularkey is much more a Dexter McCluster fan. You know, loves his leadership ability, loves his work ethic. You know, especially when you're dealing with mainly a group of younger backs rather, outside of DeMarco Murray. So I think I get the sense that Dexter McCluster, unless there's a radical change, I think his spot is secure on this roster at this point. You know, he does represent certainly a change of pace kind of guy. A third down guy who can catch passes out of the backfield, or a change of pace, more of kind of a jitterbug style as opposed to the Derrick Henrys and the DeMarco Murrays. So, you know, if that is the case, then who is on the bubble? Then I think you certainly have to look at guys like, you know, Bishop Sankey and David Cobb,
sure,
and then Antonio Andrews. You know, those guys will probably be battling it out for some of the remaining spots, because certainly guys like Cobb and Andrews, especially, don't necessarily represent too much of a change from a Derrick Henry and a DeMarco Murray. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But I think Dexter McCluster is enough of a change guy and enough of a leader in Mike Mularkey's mind that he's got a pretty good chance.
Yeah, that running back room's getting pretty snug, isn't it? All right, I can't talk Titans with you, John, without asking about the franchise QB, Marcus Mariota. Asked him last week if he felt like he needed to step up his leadership even more this year in year two, and he, you know, as he always does, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, hey, I'm just trying to be me. But in talking with other players on the Titans, they've all said, yeah, he's been a little bit more vocal. He's shown some more leadership. I wonder if you've had a chance to see that on the practice field, and do you feel that coming out of St. Thomas Sports Park?
Yeah, it's hard to see a ton on the practice field. You know, maybe a little bit more, but I agree with you. You hear it more from his teammates. You know, a number of them have said, yes, he is a little bit more vocal. And you know, he's never going to be I'll date myself and say like a Joe Theismann, you know, a guy who can't stop talking and just rattles on forever. That's not Marcus Mariota. He's not going to be, a big-time chatty guy. But, you know, to be a little bit more of a presence and to, kind of set an example in that way, I think, I've heard it from enough teammates that I think Marcus Mariota is making strides in that field. And I think just the fact that, you know, he's been through everything now. Everything is second nature. Everything is more comfortable now, from, you know, being in Nashville to the, to most of his coaches. And, and then just the fact, you know, he put on another 5 pounds of muscle. I think he feels good about himself as well. So I think we're certainly seeing Marcus Mariota make some strides. And, you know, it was interesting today also, he talked a little bit about how kind of this new streamlined offense is helping him out as well. He said things are a little bit simpler in terms of verbiage and communicating. So certainly that can't hurt Marcus Mariota going forward either.
No question about it. A couple more with our good buddy John Glennon from the Tennessean as we talk Titans OTAs. John, it looks to me like on defense, the secondary is the main focus this year in terms of improvement. Obviously, a Dick LeBeau 3-4 attacking defense is predicated on getting a pass rush, but you and I both know, having watched enough football, that your pass rush can't get there if the secondary isn't doing its job. We know Michael Griffin is gone, so there's a spot presumably open at one of the safety positions. Overall, we know that Jason McCourty's back after injury, and they have a lot of cornerbacks on this roster. Just give me your overall views of this secondary and how good it can be, how much better it could be in 2016 potentially.
Yeah, you know, I mean, just looking at the cornerback position for starters, you know, it's interesting to point out just how little the two Titans starters, you know, McCourty and Parrish Cox, were on the field with one another last year. There was only one full game for those guys together out of 16 last year.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. Wow.
Yeah, just one full game and one other game where they both played, somewhat, but it wasn't I think Parrish Cox, maybe McCourty had to leave early in that game. So that in itself, you know, say if you get 8 or 9 games, you know, with both your corners starting next year, I mean, that's a huge leap from this season. And then I think when you bring in Bryce McCain, I think he's a guy probably, you know, he's played under Dick LeBeau before, and he's considered a pretty good guy in the slot as well. So I think, the Titans were ready to move on from Cody Sensabaugh. They were a little frustrated at times. Sensabaugh, would give up the big play from time to time. So I think those three guys, if they can stay on the field, pretty well with one another, I think that's an upgrade right there from last year. And then, Mike Mularkey was talking today a lot about Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft, Kalen Reed from Southern Miss, and saying that here's a guy, with a great motor, a guy who just won't stop running out there and keeps showing up around the ball. So that's a promising sign that they have another cornerback in the works there. So it'll be interesting to see. You can't say for sure that guys like Kalen Reed and LaShawn Sims and Bryce McCain are going to be the answers until we start seeing some preseason games and so forth. But I think there's a good chance that at least the corner spot will be much improved from last year.
All right, John, a couple of quick ones for you. I know you also cover the Nashville Predators as well as the Tennessee Titans. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals going on right now. The Penguins, of course, taking Game 1. Do they win the series, or do the Sharks come back and take it?
I have a feeling. I'm thinking the Sharks are going to come back and win it. Now, it was 0-0 after the footers tonight, so if the Penguins are up 5-0 now, maybe I would predict differently. But I don't know. Seeing a lot of the Sharks, I think that's such a deep, talented team, and their power play, has been so good all along through these playoffs. It's been such a weapon for them. So I'm going to give them the edge, unless they're currently trailing 5-0, and then I revoke that prediction, and I say, Pittsburgh in a sweep.
Fair enough. Cavs or Warriors? Who you got?
Well, I've probably seen a good 20-25 minutes of NBA hoops this year. So based on that, I am going to go with Cavaliers. I heard your prediction, and I'm gonna go with you on that because Kyrie Irving more of a presence this year in the finals than he was last year, and I don't think Steph Curry is at his full potential. I think he's still kind of limited due to the injuries. So I'm thinking Cavaliers in either 6 or 7.
Well, for a guy that doesn't watch much NBA, that's a pretty good breakdown, my friend. John Glennon, good buddy from the Tennessean. Always great to have you on. Thanks for doing this, and enjoy your evening, my friend.
Okay, thanks, John.
All right, John Glennon from the Tennessean, kind enough to join us tonight as we talk OTAs and a little bit of Stanley Cup playoffs in the NBA. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Mularkey, his thoughts after today's OTA practice. Stay with us. We're back after this.